In 5 weeks, Donald J. Trump will be sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. With his election came great anger and demonstrations from those citizens who fear he will carry out his campaign promises to deport Muslims, or build a wall to keep out Mexicans, or due to his insensitive comments about African Americans, Jewish Americans, or female Americans. I also object to this man taking the oath of office. I have reasons that will, perhaps, seem trivial compared to theirs, but they are my reasons. Before jumping to the conclusion that I am some coastal liberal elitist, hear me out. I'm an independent centrist, with no grievance against either party, and I am not endorsing his opponent. I was at one time an officer in the U.S. military, like my father before me, and I understand my grandfather was an NCO. I'm a patriot from a family of patriots, and I served under both George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton with equal loyalty. I remember when I was in ROTC, a fine young cadet lost her scholarship when it was discovered she suffered from mild epilepsy. She endured about one petit mal seizure a month for perhaps 30 seconds. She was apparently unaware, as one might not know if they snore or not. She would have been a fine officer. But it didn't matter. She didn't measure up. Fairness had nothing to do with it. She might suffer her seizure at a critical moment. The military must maintain its standards, and she was unfit. In ROTC, I was taught all sorts of useful principles for being in charge of people, like lead from the front and set the example. Your soldiers are always looking to you and will imitate your behavior. In running for president, that candidate is also applying for the job of Commander-in-Chief of our armed forces. What sort of example does Mr. Trump set for our soldiers? When confronted by the parents of a Muslim soldier who'd been killed in action, Mr. Trump questioned their right to criticize him, calling their words a vicious attack. How then would I, as an officer, convince our Muslim soldiers or their families that our nation will be grateful for their sacrifices? Mr. Trump has questioned whether a federal judge can fairly adjudicate the fraud case against Trump University because the man is of Mexican descent. 3 of the men I served directly under, Sergeant Major Martinez, Captain Ferraro, and Major Hernandez, came from Hispanic families. Mr. Trump's words can only sow disloyalty and disaffection in the ranks. Mr. Trump has mocked the handicapped in public. Will mockery be the reward of our wounded veterans? Mr. Trump was recorded publicly boasting about sexually assaulting women. Worse, when confronted, he dismissed his words as locker room talk. How would I, as a military policeman, confront soldiers accused of sexual assault when our president does such things and brags about it? We in the military have words for such behavior. Conduct unbecoming. Mr. Trump's public statements during the election would have earned him a dishonorable discharge. And yet, in 5 weeks, soldiers and Marines, privates and generals, will be required to stand at attention and salute this man. His picture will hang in their offices. My commission hangs on my wall, and it's signed by George Bush, by all accounts a gentleman, and an officer who served as a pilot in the Second World War. His signature, affirming that I am a certified officer and gentleman, carries weight. What will Donald Trump's signature mean for the next generation of officers? In sum, Mr. Donald Trump is unfit for the presidency, and if I were still active, I would be forced to resign my commission.